He encouraged me. He said that why don't you also join me in writing this exam? Doing my PhD related work during the day, and at night sometimes I would prepare for the civil services. Many agencies have touted this exam to be one of the toughest exams in the country, and they pointed out that every day delay in implementing the express metro would have an economic cost of 50 lakh rupees. When I was SDO Serampore, there were many raids against SAPTA, many raids against illicit liquor. They had local support in many pockets of the district. So it was very difficult really in terms of getting the local people out of this clutches of this militant movement and get them into the mainstream. But it was also a very challenging work. And when I joined, it was suffering from a Kamtapur militant movement. They kidnapped people, they murdered political leaders, they kidnapped the garden owners. So it was a very challenging time because you know that in Bhobazar so many buildings collapsed, some lives were also lost, so much of property was destroyed.
हेलो सर, कैसे हैं आप?
I'm fine. How do you do?
सर बढ़िया है सर, मोस्ट वेलकम इन पॉडकास्ट। सो सर, आपका IIT खड़गपुर में बीटेक जर्नी का सर?
Lovely at all. The most exciting time. I spent between 1983 and 1988 in Nehru Hall. First doing my B.tech up to 87 and then pursued my M.tech. It used to be, a wonderful time because in those days we didn't have mobile phones.
Oh.
It was very difficult to contact folks. So basically, the hall was a home away from. So you got to talk to your family members only maybe once or twice a month, and that too if there was an emergency. So that was it was the hallmates who were the part of the factory.
What about the holidays?
That was a very interesting an activity as well because holiday was the most important event, and everyone contributed in some way or the other to the holiday. And since there was an unwritten competition between halls, so whose holiday is more attractive, so everybody put in their best efforts.
सर आपका बीटेक के बाद कैसा जर्नी था? एमटेक आपने PhD IIT खड़गपुर से किया, फिर मतलब UPSC का प्रिपरेशन आपने बीटेक से ही स्टार्ट कर दिया था कि उसके बाद?
नहीं, वो तो शुरू हुआ PhD के समय. Actually, it was like this that I did my B.tech and then I did my M.tech. When I went in for M.tech, most of my B.tech, hallmates, they had left. So it was different in M.tech. And after that, once I completed my M.tech, there was practically nobody left in the hall. So I shifted to BC Roy Hall for my PhD. And in BC Roy Hall, there was a wingmate who was writing the civil services. And he encouraged me. He said that why don't you also join me in writing this exam? So I decided, well, there's no harm in trying because I had decided not to go to the US or UK or any other, foreign country for further studies, etc. I had decided to stay back in the country. So I thought that why not try out something which will keep me independent.
तो PhD में कैसे उन लोग का बैलेंस कैसे हुआ?
So it was very difficult actually. Even selecting the subjects was very difficult because I was in electronics and electronics is not offered as a paper. So at that time there were two elective subjects. So I chose electrical engineering, which has some commonality with electronics. And the other subject, I thought that if I chose physics or maths, that would require a lot of preparation because at that level you have to prepare. And I didn't have that much of time during PhD. So I chose political science and international relations. So somehow it clicked. And it was difficult really because most of the days I would be doing my PhD related work during the day, and at night sometimes I would prepare for the civil services. Preparation would mainly mean reading the various books, and I was a very keen reader of magazines and newspapers. So every day I was very diligently I would go through the papers. So all of that together, I think that helped.
तो आप पहली बार में करेक्ट थे?
Yeah.
कितने में?
I was fourth.
इसके बाद सर डिस्ट्रिक्ट मजिस्ट्रेट आप बने ये जलपाईगुड़ी के, इन वर्धमान के, तो वहाँ पे कैसा एक्सपीरियंस था? वहाँ पे कैसे लीड किए?
Jalpaiguri and Vardhaman are very different districts. Jalpaiguri is a beautiful picturesque district in northern part of Bengal, full of forests and tea gardens, very green, very high rainfall. And when I joined, it was suffering from a Kamtapur militant movement. They kidnapped people, they murdered political leaders, they kidnapped the garden owners. So it was a very challenging time because they had local support in many pockets of the district. So it was very difficult, really, in terms of getting the local people out of this clutches of this militant movement and get them into the mainstream. But it was also a very challenging work. Vardhaman is a agrarian and industrial district. So the eastern part of Vardhaman is all about agriculture, very progressive farmers, lots of paddy fields. And in the western part is all about industry and coal mines. So Durgapur, Asansol, they are full of industries. They were full of industries that there were many old mines of eastern coal fields. So Bardhaman was an entirely different experience compared to Japan.
आपने सर कभी रेट किया है कड़ा रेट?
Yeah, that was a part of, particularly when I was SDO Serampore, there were many raids against SAPTA, many raids against illicit liquor. And of course, there was a very big law and order issue relating to, handlooms and power loops. There were dispute between the two that led to a lot of arrests at valleys.
उसके बाद क्या वो लोग छूट गए क्या? नहीं लोग
No, I mean, most of the raids will end in some arrests. They will face the trial, and after trial, maybe somebody will be punished, somebody will be released. So that's the usual thing with most of the things. But main thing is that we could avoid loss of lives. People were injured, but loss of life was.
सर तो आप अभी सेक्रेटरी हैं वो डिपार्टमेंट में, तो वहाँ पे क्या-क्या पक्ष?
See, in government, it is more about the working environment which you get. So, part-wise, it is very standard. Every secretary gets the same parts in government of India. You get a good accommodation and belly. You get a vehicle. You get phone. You get laptop. So all of that you get. But in terms of parks, it is not really that. That's not the main attraction. The main attraction here is the nature of job that I do, because you are there formulating policy for the entire sector. You can have a very good view of the entire country, what is going on in different parts of the country. There are lots of differences between states. Uh, every decision you take impacts the industry. In my case, the food processing industry. So it's very it's very satisfying to see that you take a decision and that decision impacts the industry in a very positive way.
सर आप वेस्ट बंगाल में जब सेक्रेटरी थे तो यहाँ ईस्ट वेस्ट मेट्रो का कुछ रीअलाइनमेंट हो रहा था। वेस्ट बंगाल के गवर्नमेंट बोला तो आप उससे डिसाइड थे ओके।
Actually, see, you are a civil engineer, so if you know that metro is a very complex civil engineering project. So the alignment which was originally there was based on a very long survey which was done, a technical survey which was done, which was vetted by other agencies. Then this particular alignment which was there was also approved by Government of India as well as JICA, Japan International Cooperation Agency, which had provided loan for the project. So none of them were in favor of a realignment for principally two reasons. One is that a realignment of a very complex civil engineering project like metro would mean delaying the project significantly, and there would be cost overrun. So that was one reason. Secondly, it is uh, the entire realigned route has to be resurveyed and reassessed, which are very time consuming and complex and expensive activities. And thirdly, because the project will get delayed, the benefit of the project will not be available to the public for quite some time. So at that point in time, I think there was a calculation which was done by one of the consultants to the project, and they pointed out that every day delay in implementing the express metro would have an economic cost of 50 lakh rupees every day. So that was one reason. The second reason was that contracts had already been finalized. The very big multinational, engineering firms were working on the project. So once they were digging the tunnel and building the viaducts and all, if you suddenly change the alignment, then they would not only ask for more time, but they would ask for significantly more money for their project. So the project, which at that time it was estimated to cost about 5,000 crore. It's ultimately, I have heard recently that the revised budget is something like 12,000-13,000 crore, about 2.5 times the originally estimated amount. Plus, at that time, we had estimated that as per the original alignment and work plan, the project would have been delayed, but project could have been completed in 2014 if every system worked properly. But today, see, we are in 2025 and it is just about the project is ready. So it's about 11 years delay in the project. चल रहा है अभी तो खत्म होने वाला था. Some points, some small components are left, but it is more or less complete now. 11 years. So 11 years, people have not got the benefit of the project. So that was my reasons. My reasons were purely technical engineering reasons and techno-commercial reasons for not supporting. And also another thing that we see, the alignment was changed, but the alignment was changed based on a very hurried survey done by rights. And you know that in Bowbazaar, so many buildings collapsed, some lives were also lost. So much of property was destroyed, apart from the fact that portion of the mall took several years to be completed. So that's because, that survey was not properly done.
वर्कलोड कैसा होता है? मतलब अभी आप सिक्योरिटी हैं सेंटर गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया, तो वहाँ पे कहाँ से पास रहता है या संडे को भी का?
No, it's actually, it partly depends on you, how much effort you want to put in, and partly depends upon the various activities at the national capital. There are very often there are workshops and meetings, and when parliament is in session, there are parliamentary questions, answers to which have to be prepared within time. Then there are parliamentary committees which go through the work of the ministry. All of these require a lot of preparation. So effectively, you are working, it's not like it's only the office time. So office time may be from 9:30 to 5:30 or 6 p.m. But on requirement, you can remain in office till 7, 8, 9 or 10 p.m. But that's not the issue. Issue is that you are always at work, because if there is something in hand, you might be actually working from home as well to prepare documents and to prepare replies and all. On holidays, mostly, many of us, what we do is that we take time out to visit the field to see how policies are being implemented on the ground, interact with the industry, talk to the state governments, talk to other stakeholders on the ground. So it's not like it's not like it's Sunday and therefore you don't have a work. It depends upon you. If you take interest in your work, then you can go outside the schedule and do a lot of things.
सर वेस्ट बंगाल में बहुत सारी, मतलब मैंने न्यूज़ में पढ़ा है, बहुत सारे IAS अफसर लोग छोड़ रहे हैं, मतलब सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट में जाना चाहते हैं, ऐसा क्या?
No, I don't think that is not the case. Not many officers from West Bengal are in central government in any case. I think that for an IAS officer, it's an all India service. It's very good to have a stint in government of India, because you get a picture of the entire country. You get an experience of the entire country. So there is nothing wrong in wanting to go and serve government of India. And it's also not a case that in West Bengal there are more officers wanting to go to. If you see the evidence, it is that compared to states like Bihar, Gujarat, Maharashtra, very few people from West Bengal are actually in government of India today.
सर सारे IAS अफसर सिक्योरिटी नहीं हो सकते, उसके लिए क्या है?
No, this is a long process, because the performance of an IAS officer is evaluated throughout his career. So every year we have to submit what is called annual performance appraisal report, which is then evaluated by your superior. Say if I, as a additional district magistrate, file by APAR, then that is examined by my superior, which is the district magistrate, and then the district magistrate records his comments as to how the officer has performed, what are his qualities, etc. And then there is score is given. So these scores for every year, these are all very carefully maintained by the state government as well as by the central government. So at certain stages in your career, you get promoted to the next step. In the case of Government of India, they have a system called empanelment. So not every IAS officer will get empaneled as joint secretary or additional secretary or secretary. So based on your performance of the last 5 years, based on integrity, based on other reports from the field, from the other stakeholders, they will make a pen picture of the officer. And based on suitability, he might be empaneled as joint secretary. Then as joint secretary, you work for 5 years or 6 years or 7 years. And then on the basis of that performance, you might be empaneled as the additional secretary. Similarly, after working as additional secretary, you may get empaneled as secretary to work in OCA. So roughly in a batch, about let's say about 15% to 20% ultimately reach the level of secretary.
मैंने सुना था मतलब जिनका यूपीएससी में 20 रैंक के अंदर होता है और एज कम होता है तो वो बन ही जाते हैं, ऐसा कुछ है?
No, it's not like that. As I said, age is a factor because each stage you have to perform for a certain number of years. So if age is on your side, you have that time really to complete the various stages and reach. If you don't have the age, if you retire early, then you will get stopped early. But age is not a factor for determining whether a person can become a secretary or additional secretary. It is purely on performance.
फूड प्रोसेसिंग में सुप्तान 2025 एक का प्रोग्राम है, तो वो मतलब क्या है? अपने आप अच्छे से बता और मतलब वो स्टार्टअप वो कैसे हेल्प कर सकते?
SUFALAM is actually an event which the Ministry of Food Processing Industry has been sponsoring for the last couple of years. The idea is that, in food processing sector, food processing is a very interesting sector. It's interesting and it's a very promising sector because the demand for food will never go down. People will continue to consume food. They are going to consume more and more food because people's affluence is increasing. People can buy more types of food and more quantity of food. And the population is also increasing gradually. So food demand will never go down. But people's tastes change, their preferences change, and people are becoming health conscious. People look for different types of food. So lot of possibilities are there for development of different types of food items and also, you know, making models for reaching those food to different sections of the population. Lot of young entrepreneurs have taken up the food processing sector as a very potential sector for startups. So I can tell you, for example, we met some young innovators recently, and I found that what they had done is they had prepared ice cream from oat milk made from oats. So there is a lot of people who are lactose intolerant and therefore they cannot enjoy ice cream. And what they have done is to avoid lactose, they have produced milk from oats, and from that milk they have produced ice cream. And if you taste that ice cream, you'll never be able to distinguish it from the normal ice cream which you get in the market. So well made. So there are such innovative products. Then because of this, the new interest in millets. Millets are very healthy grains, which mostly gluten-free and good for managing body weight and several other parameters. So millets are becoming more and more popular. So a lot of these startups, they produce innovative food items using millets. So the idea was that there is a lot of innovation in this sector. Why don't we identify these innovators, bring them on a platform And in SUFALAM, they showcase their, their technology, their products. And at SUFALAM, there are other, investing companies, big players in the market who are there. So they will see and they will pick up the projects which have a lot of promise. They can support these startups. So that's one of the big attractions of SUFALAM, is that you get an interaction with a lot of funders, banks and other institutions who can fund those projects. In addition to that, of course, we identify the very promising projects and we give prizes to them, cash prizes, which will help them increase their business and effort. So it's a very good platform for startups in the food processing sector, and we plan to continue that. In this round of SUFALAM, which we had in 2025,
Right.
I think the number of people who registered were more than 400. Out of which I think around 60 or 70, they had displayed their products and technologies. And many could get to interact with, and also another thing is that in SUFALAM, those who are quite good and promising, NIFTED, which is a institute of national eminence, which is National Institute of Food Technology Management and Entrepreneurship. So NIFTEM provides the technical support. They can provide their professional guidance. They can provide their own plant and machinery, own laboratories, so that these startups, which often find it very expensive to access these things, they can access those facilities and do their own research.
The last question, UPSC aspirants बोल लो क्या सकते हो?
The aspirants.
Yeah, aspirants.
I think my first message would be that since this is an exam, many agencies have touted this exam to be one of the toughest exams in the country. So one should not, put all eggs in that one basket. We should not think that either I qualify UPSC or my future is doomed. That should not be the approach. You prepare well, write the exam, but don't hope that you will succeed. That I think is a very important thing, because otherwise, it may lead to depression, or it may lead to, frustration, because you are not qualified in one exam, and one exam in a person's life cannot determine the person's entire future. You can do very well in many other things as well. At the same time, I will say for aspirants, it is very important to be keyed onto all the national and international events which are there, which are happening every day. So one has to keep abreast of all these developments. That's very important, because that is something which is tested in the main exams, main part of the exam. One has to be not only up to date with the current affairs. One has to go through the, now there's a lot of material available in social media. In our time, we didn't have access to so much of reading material. So that's a plus point, also a negative point, because there's so much of information. So information overload is a problem. And you need to know. So if you get into one subject, you need to know it at depth. In civil services, often both in the interview as well as in the main exam, you are tested for your analytical ability, your ability to reason out. So you have to study quite a bit. And I would say that, developing that analytical mindset and an ability to express yourself in any language of your choice, that's very important. So my suggestion to all aspirants is that prepare well, put in hard work, but don't put all your hopes into one exam. In some cases, it takes time, and also there are so many avenues today. I mean, for a new graduate, particularly for an engineering graduate, there are so many career options available. Also, the environment in which civil services are to work today is fundamentally different from what it was 20, 30 years back. Things have changed, situations have changed. So, I think there's a lot of promise in other careers as well, which should not be ignored.
Thank you, sir, for coming to the podcast.
Thank you, Akash. All the best to you and all the best to your viewers as well. I hope my journey would, encourage some people to take up civil services as an option. I wish you all the best.